Jim Brunston, Financial Times. Hello, over here. So 2 questions, if I may. Firstly, Commissioner, you mentioned that the talks will start as soon as possible. What does that mean in practice? Will the talks start before or after the EU elections? Because that does seem to have been a crucial thing in the mind of at least one member state. And secondly, I've got to choose now. Yeah, I mean, what chance do you actually see that at the end of this, the US Congress would ever agree to approve a trade deal which doesn't include agriculture? It seems to have been such a fundamental demand for them. What prognosis does this actually have of ever being approved on the US side? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Well, the mandate was adopted this morning, and I will reach out as soon as they wake up in the US to try to be in contact with Ambassador Lighthizer to inform him about this and see if we can have more clarity on when we can meet to have the first talk on this. We have, of course, met many times and discussed other items, but I have not been able to discuss these issues before formal mandates, obviously. So I don't have a date. It's clearly in their hands. We are ready as soon as they are. On agriculture, yes, the Congress has a different template for these for all negotiations, but it has been very clear from the beginning, and I was with the President in the White House, that agriculture is not in. This is a limited but still meaningful win-win negotiations that we are offering, and that was agreed between the 2 presidents. So that is what we will do, no more, no less, and we are ready to do it. And I think that can, once we start, I think that can go quite quickly. So it will be for the US to handle their internal procedures.
This is the moment for me to say issues not yet covered, please. Yes.
Thank you.
No, first your colleague and then, yes, go ahead. Yes.
Does it work? Milan Schreur with the New York Times. France and a considerable part of the European Parliament opposes the start of these negotiations, and they say the Commission is scared of the threat of tariffs on cars and is prepared to negotiate with a gun to its head, despite the fact that the US is leaving the Paris Accord. What is your reaction to that?
This Commission is not afraid of anything. You should have known this by these 4 years, right? But what we are doing is that we are implementing the decision that was in the White House the 25th of July last year, which was fully anchored with the European Council. A month before, there was a meeting in Sofia, where the conclusions indicated this direction, and it has been confirmed and anchored with the European Parliament, with member states, with the trade ministers, and it was also confirmed at the March Council that EU should go forward implementing the White House agreement from July, from the European Council. So we are just following very, very consistently what we have said all the time. I'm sorry that the European Parliament didn't manage to agree on a resolution. You know, as you remember, it was voted down. There was no resolution. But I participated in the debate many times, and I've been to the intercommittee many times. I'm aware of some of the considerations and the fears that they had. I think they have been accommodated in the mandate published this morning. And nevertheless, we will, of course, work with the new Parliament and the new intercommittee as close as possible, as we do with any trade agreement.
Now is your turn.
Maxi Schlee with Politico. Ms. Malmstrom, you said in January that a trade deal with the United States could be done quite quickly. How optimistic are you that it can be done within the Juncker Commission still, also against the backdrop of disagreement over agriculture, the car travel threat and French opposition? Thank you.
Well, as I said, the mandates were adopted this morning, so obviously we haven't started yet. Now the ball is in the court of the US to see when can we start. If we agree to start, I think it can go quite quickly. There are sensitivities, absolutely, but we can manage this quite quickly. And from our side, we are definitely determined to do everything we can to finish this under the Juncker Commission.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Margaritas, and thank you, Commissioner. Your emphasis has been on speed and being able to do this deal quickly. So with that in mind, how will you be involving Britain in these talks, and have the Americans previously expressed any concern about the length of UK participation with Brexit now being kicked back till October 31st by the look of it. And when do you expect the Boeing tariffs to apply to everyone, including the UK? Thank you very much.
Answer all these questions, but as long as UK is a member of the European Union, they will of course be adequately informed and engaged as any other member.
Okay, then I had a hand here closer. Andres.
Thank you very much, Margarita. I'm Andres Gil from El Diario, Spain. Yes, it's quite a follow-up from a question of my colleague regarding to the European Parliament not mandate to this negotiation. So I would like to ask you, Commissioner, will you take care of the concerns from the European Parliament in this negotiation with the United States? I mean, there was a no mandate because there were concerns at the Parliament. So would you listen to these concerns?
But there was no mandate because there were too many differences within the European Parliament. So in the end, they voted down the whole resolution. So there is no resolution. So what the European Parliament thinks, we don't know. We know what different groups think on the different side, but the European Parliament has no view on this. Those who did express some concerns, I think they are reflected in the mandate. For instance, that before we conclude this, we have to solve the steel and aluminium issue, and that should there be other tariffs imposed under this deal, there will be a suspension of negotiations. These were things that came up very often in the debate from people concerned, and the Romanian presidency have accommodated that. If you haven't had a look at it, it's online now, so you can see it.